You know, the success thing for me, anyways, is always a daily occurrence. I didn't really track numbers much. I loved when we got our first gold album, from the first one, and then Cocked and Loaded, obviously. But there was a big struggle with Cocked and Loaded because I really didn't want Ballad of Jayne on the record. I wanted to save it for later, because our we already had forward progress, you know what I mean? And we were a rock band and we were a hard hitting, nasty, sleazy punk rock band in a way. And there was enough music on Cocked and Loaded, like Rip and Tear and Never Enough, and whatever. There's so many great songs on that album. I didn't feel it was necessary to do what everybody else was doing right then to maintain longevity. And I was right, and I was also wrong. Obviously, when the Ballad of Jane came out, it did exactly what everybody knew it was going to do. It was so predictable, and it's a great song. Um, but what ended up happening was after that was a big hit for like 6 months, our fan base started changing, just like I knew it would. And we do these big radio shows, thousands of people, and we play our heavy music, and I could watch the audience completely uninterested. Then we'd play Ballad of Jane, then the tits would come out. It was like God damn it, like this is awesome, but this is so campy. This is so fucking cheeky. This is so stupid. Um, I also knew that that song would enable the band to be at least a nostalgia band forever. So that's the upside. The downside was like, okay, now what? If this is what made us go over the top, you know, are we going back to what we normally do, or are we going to try to capitalize on this success? And that's really confusing. I was like 7 years younger than the next guy in my band in age. Everybody was older than me. Management's older than me. So their strategy was always to be smart. You know what I mean? Like their strategy is like, well, let's make smart business moves. Let's give the audience what they want. And the whole time I'm like, no, fuck that. You know, I want to write fucking the shit that comes out of me without a purpose. You know what I mean? Like there's no purpose other than to be creative and make records that we love, that we want to hear. I want to make records that I want to hear, not that somebody else wants to hear. And so that struggle really, I think those guys thought I was a lunatic. They just thought I was out of my mind. Well, like, and then the third record, Mick went and wrote with this really great songwriter up in Canada that worked with Brian Adams or some shit. And then we came up with It's Over Now, which it's a great song. The fuck, man. My buddy Richard Marx should have done that song, not LA Guns. So stupid. But anyways, that's kind of how this career has gone. It's like I've been in the business since well before LA Guns. I was a session guy since I was 17. And so I knew what pop music was, and I knew how things are marketed and stuff like that. But LA Guns is my baby, and I have my own vision, and that vision changes every 18 months. And that's what keeps it exciting for me. But like my vision was never to like, hey, let's go co-write with some pop rock guys and get on the radio. Sheesh, death to false metal and all of it. It's just such crap.
So did that cause a lot of tension within the group then? Obviously, if you're fighting against that sort of thing, was that a really difficult time amongst the members of the band?
It was strange because it's not like the other guys were fighting for it. They were complicit about it. Like,
Yeah.
they wouldn't really get behind me in my point of view of like, hey, we're LA Guns, and this is what LA Guns sounds like today, kind of a thing. And I think Phil always had my back, but like, the other guys, they were willing to do everything, and except one of the guys, he was willing to do everything but show up to rehearse. You know what I mean? Like shit like that. Like it was always the easy way. And, you know, sometimes the easy way pays off big temporarily, but like I can't do anything else. So, I really have to make sure that I do what I do, because that's why people come around. You're not going to get the same LA Guns record twice.
Yeah.
It's just not what we do. And that might be why we're not a huge, gigantic, force, because we do shift gears, but that's who we are. That's the identity of the band.
So how do you reflect on the Ballad of Jane now then? I mean, because there's a lot of bands that look back on their big single and they don't like it as much. They don't like playing it
Mhm.
because of the connotations behind it. So how do you look back on that song and what it means to you and the following and everything else that goes around it now?
Um, I've always loved playing it. I never had an issue with, fuck, we got to play this song again. Like I've never been in that headspace. There was a time in like 95, 96 where we would play the song twice. Like we'd give them what they wanted. And then, like I said earlier, we'd play this kind of calypso kind of version, like really fun, Huntington Beach, which is a whole different thing here, kind of vibe with the song at the very end of the set. And the crowd absolutely loved that. So, and then I was in a band called Killing Machine, and we did a full hardcore version of Ballad of Jane, which people loved that too. Good song's a good song, so um I don't really have any regrets, of the song. It still gets us the bucks today. So
Very true.
I'm not I'm not going to piss where I sleep. Yeah, that's a great song.